Humanity sends the first space expedition to Mars, which mysteriously perishes. Rescuers struggle to reach the red planet and discover an astonishing find that reveals the secret of the origin of humans and life on Earth.
I don't know what the hell we just did.
Hi, welcome to Q Recaps. Today I will explain the film Mission to Mars from 2000. The story begins in Dickinson, Texas. In the year 2020, a party is held at the house of astronaut Luke Graham, in honor of his departure to Mars. Woody and his wife Terry are also preparing for the trip, as it's just the two of them going. Terry jokes that flying together strengthens their relationship. But no one has any idea yet what awaits them on this journey into space. The ship's commander, Luke, is worried about his colleague and friend Jim, who has not showed up for the celebration. He worries for him because he was unable to participate in this mission. But his wife cheers him up and tells him to say goodbye to their young son. He promises the boy that wherever he is, he will read his favorite book every night, just as if they were reading it together. Eventually, Jim does make it to the party. Luke is very happy to see him. In the evening, Woody, Jim, and Luke discuss the upcoming flight. They remember that Jim is an extraordinarily accomplished pilot. He even once managed to land a spacecraft that was experiencing malfunctions. Jim was supposed to be the one to go to Mars on the first mission, but due to his wife's illness, he had to suspend his flight preparations. Now Luke has taken his place. This man feels guilt in front of his friend, having prepared for this mission for a full 12 years. Jim assures everyone that everything is fine and wishes Luke a pleasant flight, despite the fact that he is visibly upset. 13 months have passed. The staff of the Mars No. 1 mission land in Cydonia. A remote-controlled camera traverses the surface of this desert planet, collecting data. Suddenly, the team detects a mysterious white glow about 16 kilometers away from their location. The team concludes that it isn't volcanic ash, but rather it seems more like ice. But why would there be ice on Mars? They decide to report to the International Space Station and start investigating this unknown object themselves. In the Mars Expedition Control Center, time is already 20 minutes behind. The space station staff, including Jim, are watching the video footage from the team. Luke speculates that this mysterious phenomenon is groundwater discharge. If it truly is, they've found a way to settle on this planet. Simultaneously, the Mars 1 team has reached this anomalous location. Suddenly, the crew members start hearing an odd, low sound, which they mistakenly attribute to interference from the Mars rover. As they draw nearer to the mountain, the astronauts activate the radar, wanting to find out what it is. The radar indicates the presence of metal beneath the entire mountain. The team decides to recheck this formation and increases the power of the radar. Suddenly, the signal cuts out, replaced by complete silence. The crew is perplexed. Within a few seconds, a massive whirlwind starts to rise around the mountain. It behaves like a sentient entity, chasing the astronauts and crushing them one by one. Rocks fly up into the air and smash into people with tremendous force, while the whirlwind sucks everything in its path into a gigantic sand vortex. Once the vortex subsides, the mysterious mountain is revealed to be a gigantic human face. Due to this catastrophe, the space station detects an extremely powerful energy burst. The management convenes all team members to decide on the next steps. Woody, Terry, and technician Phil arrive at the space station, where they are briefed on the extent of the disaster. A faint signal comes through from the Mars 1 mission base, suggesting that some crew members have, after all, survived. The crew turns on the distress call from Luke. The frightened man confusedly describes what happened to his crew. He manages to recount the low sound they heard and the unexplained phenomenon that attacked and decimated the rest of the crew. The powerful pulse knocked out all the computers, which means there's no way to contact Luke again. The station realizes that the only chance to find out what happened and try to help Luke is to send a Mars 2 team to him. Phil comes up an idea that the Saturn research satellite is passing through Mars orbit and can be reprogrammed to examine the Mars 1 camp. However, the station manager declares that a launch is not possible until 8 months later. Nevertheless, Jim has a plan. He has already done the calculations and figured out that they can depart sooner by reducing the ship's load and taking more fuel. The commander, named Ray, initially does not agree with Jim's optimism. But Jim proves that everything will work out because he was the one who formulated the evacuation plan for the Mars mission. Jim's idea is supported by Woody, and Ray eventually agrees. Woody checks with Ray on the team composition. He insists that Jim be the co-pilot. Ray is against this because Jim has not been approved to fly. The man doesn't want to take the few remaining psychological tests because of his illness and his wife's passing. However, Woody manages to convince the commander. The Mars 2 mission has been in flight for 174 days. Phil is creating a model of the DNA of his ideal woman out of candy. After eating one of the candies, Jim asks whose DNA it now is. Phil guesses that it's now a frog's. Woody observes a dust storm on the screen that is heading straight for the Mars 1 expedition camp. He tells Jim that he must speed up and act ahead of schedule, as the storm will soon cover the entire planet for an entire year. Finally, the data from the satellite arrives. The team finds that the Mars 1 ship is intact. As they approach another area, they discover 3 graves. Luke might still be alive. While scanning the site for radiation levels, the team sees strange interference on the screen. Woody points out that the earthquake that occurred 6 months ago couldn't have caused this. But Jim is certain it was not an earthquake. In a video conference, Ray gives permission to land. The entire crew of the ship, as well as the space station staff, are excited about the arrival of the second Mars mission. Meanwhile, Jim remembers his wife Maggie and watches old videos. They met at the Air Force Academy, got married, and became the commander of the Mars 1 base. Maggie dreamt of landing on Mars and believed that her mission was to uncover the mystery of Mars. She was convinced that there was something profound there. Now, Jim also wants to know the truth at all costs. There's a little over an hour left for the spacecraft to enter Mars orbit. The astronauts check all systems and programs. Phil enters the necessary data on the screen. Suddenly, a micrometeoroid cloud hits the spaceship. One of the meteor particles shatters the glass, injuring Phil's arm. The crew find that the main system has malfunctioned. The pressure drops, and a hole is found in the hull. Woody finds and fixes it, but the pressure continues to drop. This means there are more holes on the ship. There are a few minutes left until complete depressurization. Woody decides to go outside. But it is almost impossible to find the damaged area. Suddenly, the crew come up with a way to find the breach. They open a liquid packet, and all the substance starts to rush towards the inconspicuous hole. The atmospheric pressure on the ship has dropped to the extreme. Jim feels unwell and loses consciousness. At the last moment, Woody plugs the hole, and the pressure finally stabilizes. Woody wants to check the entire hull, as there are still many scratches on it. By this time, the spacecraft is ready to enter orbit. Phil tells Woody to hurry back. The man returns without having fully checked the hull. The crew doesn't know yet, but they've made a fatal mistake at this point. Phil starts the engine and opens the fuel injection device. But it turns out that another flaw in the engine's oil pipe has gone unnoticed. Some fuel is forced out into space. The team begins the countdown, and Phil is ready to press the start button. When the engine starts, the fuel is ignited and damages the spacecraft. The system doesn't respond to commands, and the engine can't be shut down. The spacecraft is falling in the atmosphere and will burn up in 3 minutes. In panic, the crew finds that the supply module left in orbit from Mars 1 is only 1 kilometer away from them. The astronauts put on their suits and decide to enter open space, hoping to reach the module. After leaving the spacecraft, the crew finds that the supply module is not where they imagined and is moving too fast. Woody decides to use his rocket pack to fly into the cabin and tie a rope on it. However, the fuel runs out quickly, and Woody is forced to switch to autonomous flight mode, giving up the thrusters. The man is already nearing the module, but now he can't stop. He collides with the module, manages to secure the rope, but can't hold on, flies past it, and continues to fall towards Mars. The autonomous system is shut down, and now he has no way to change his flight path. His colleagues immediately want to follow him, but Woody stops them because the jetpack doesn't have enough power to get there and back. Woody realizes that this is the end. Meanwhile, the other crew members manage to stand steady in the cabin. Suddenly, Terry disconnects her tether. She wants to save her husband at all costs. Woody tries to dissuade her, but she won't give up. Seeing that there is still 51% fuel left, just for the return, the woman stops. Terry launches her harpoon, and Woody reaches out, hoping it's long enough. However, he's already too far, and the cable is half a meter short. Terry prepares to fly a little closer and try again, but Woody realizes that if she flies any further, she won't be able to return. He tells Terry that he loves her and wouldn't let her do this. Woody removes his helmet and freezes instantly. Jim tries to calm Terry down and convince her to come back. The space station stops receiving signals from Mars 2. The staff believe the crew did not survive. But they suddenly receive data that the supply module in orbit has landed on Mars. This means someone is operating it. Ray realizes that no one but Jim could do such a thing. All the remaining crew members finally arrive on Mars. After planting the flag, they head towards the first expedition ship. The crew take a new motherboard, which they plan to install to replace the one that was burned. The astronauts explore the spaceship. Jim walks into the greenhouse and notices that clearly someone has been here, as all the equipment is on. Suddenly, he is attacked by the surviving Luke. He thinks Jim is just a hallucination and tries to get rid of him. Jim reminds Luke of his son and tells him they've read Treasure Island. This soothes the man. Luke finally comes to his senses and realizes his friend is real. He is ecstatic to see Jim, Terry, and Phil, unable to believe they've made it. He sheds tears of joy, but his joy is replaced by sorrow when he learns that Woody did not make it. The crew ask Luke what happened to the members of the first mission. But all he keeps repeating is that something burst from the mountaintop and obliterated everyone. Luke believes he survived for a reason. He is the one who must unravel the mystery. Everyone seems to think the man is a bit mad because he spent an entire year alone on a remote planet. His friends tell him they have the navigation board and will be able to fly away soon. Luke recounts the terrifying event to the crew and shows them the burial site. Suddenly, Jim notices a huge storm in the distance that is about to cover the entire planet. Luke says it's been here for a long time and originates from that mysterious mountain. He guesses that Jim and the other crew members can't fully believe his story. All the astronauts return to the spaceship. Here, Luke tries to accurately explain the mystery he wants to solve. After all, millions of years have passed, during which there have been meteor falls, sandstorms, and lava flows. Because of all this, the surface of the Earth has changed, but they just can't see it. Luke turns on the computer, showing that the shape of the mountain is a face. The astronauts are shocked by what they see. Jim asks Luke to play the sounds they heard before the storm. Luke begins the recording, saying that this particular sound is key. On the way to the second mission, Luke finds that these strange sounds are a series of repeating mathematical symbols. He associates this set of sounds with a coordinate system, resulting in a model of DNA. Luke speculates that this is a portrait of the creature that created the face. The surprised astronauts notice that it's not exactly human, as this model lacks the final pair of chromosomes. However, they still don't understand why. As he tidies up the supplies, Jim accidentally knocks over Phil's candy, reminding him of how they had played around with the DNA model. He realizes that the voice emitted by the face and the DNA model derived from the voice are not a portrait. It's a test. The face is waiting for an answer to a question. The astronauts from the first mission were supposed to add the missing pair of chromosomes to prove they are human. Instead, they aimed the radar, which was interpreted as the wrong answer, and the face became defensive. Now it's up to the surviving astronauts to find out what will happen when this mysterious face gets the correct answer. Jim proposes to find out which tones correspond to the missing chromosomes. He plans to record the resulting sounds as information. Phil and Terry have their doubts, if their hypothesis is wrong after all, and they face the same fate as the first batch of astronauts, what then? But Jim insists because if they leave without finding out, it means their friends have given their lives in vain. Luke has an idea. They will stay away from the face, and the recording will be sent along with a remote camera. The team places the sound source as close to the face of Mars as possible. After the amplified DNA signal ends, an entrance appears on the face. From it, a dazzling white light can be seen. The astronauts interpret this reaction as an invitation. Jim, Terry, and Luke go to the face. Phil stays on the spacecraft, with Jim ordering him to leave at a designated time, even if they have not returned. The astronauts enter a room with white walls, and the entrance closes behind them. Communication with Phil is cut off, and they realize they're trapped. Jim suddenly realizes that inside this enormous face, there is an atmosphere similar to Earth's. The astronauts carefully take off their helmets. Suddenly, an airlock behind them opens, and the team walks in without hesitation. In a dark room, they see a 3D projection of a huge solar system. Soon, a hologram of a Martian appears, revealing to the astronauts the secret of the origin of life on Earth. He is in tears. In the distant past, a huge asteroid hit Mars, similar to Earth, destroying its entire ecosystem. The Martians went to another galaxy, but a ship was sent to Earth. Inside it, they sent their DNA, and because of these cells, life was formed on our planet. The astronauts realized that it was the Martians who gave life to all humans. After watching the story, Jim, Luke, Terry, and the Martian hologram join hands around the projection of Earth. Suddenly, it disappears, and a white circle appears in its place. The Martian then leaves the astronauts. Suddenly, communication with Phil is restored. He reports that the storm is intensifying and may soon engulf the ship. The crew realizes that a ship will also emerge from the face, and the countdown has begun. Terry and Luke rush to the exit, but Jim refuses to leave. He realizes that all this is an invitation. With the Martian spaceship, he will continue to explore space further. Jim believes this is his destiny, and trusts that Maggie would want it this way. Luke and Terry do not dissuade their friend, they just thank him. After bidding farewell to Jim, the astronauts leave the magical room. The storm is about to hit their ship, they have to get there as soon as possible. The departure time has come, but Luke and Terry have not yet left. Meanwhile, Jim steps into the white circle, finding himself in a transparent space capsule, which quickly rises to the Martian spaceship. Luke and Terry rush through the sandstorm. They're late, but they hope Phil won't leave them behind. Phil is about to start the engine, but suddenly Luke makes contact. Finally, they are ready to depart. The space around Jim is filled with liquid. After a while, he realizes he can breathe inside it. All the best moments of his life flash before his eyes. Jim is happy and ready to embark on another wonderful journey. The entire face of Mars turns into a pillar of fire, with Jim's spaceship rising through it. Phil, Luke, and Terry successfully leave Mars. Through the porthole, they see Jim in the spaceship, heading towards an unknown galaxy, far, far away. What do you think awaits Jim there? Share your thoughts in the comments, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.